So you want to know the truth about witchcraft. Well, let's get a few things straight right from the beginning. First of all, forget everything you've heard and seen about the typical witch. The modern witch is not the old cackling hen with a wart on her nose. It isn't even necessary for her to have long, black, stringy hair to get into the Witches' Guild, and even if she were possessed of these qualities, she'd probably have a face job and remedy the hairdo with a quickie at Bruce's the Coiffeur. The modern witch also doesn't ride a broomstick. She may not even own a cat, black or otherwise, who in private life could be her lover. That stereotype witch for all practical purposes is dead, thank God or Satan, depending on which side of the cauldron you're standing. If what you were looking for from this album was a couple of frightening screams and some ghost stories about the blonde-haired Lady Eleanor, who while walking down her garden path suddenly disappears into a bank of fog, only to reappear in a magical stage setting of witchcraft, you've just had your first bad piece of luck from a witch, because you just blew a lot of money on this album. But at least it's probably the first time you've been screwed by a witch. And I am a witch. Oh yes, most definitely, a real live witch. And though I'm certainly going to tell you a lot of unusual things, putting chills up and down your spine isn't the goal of this album. What I've got in mind for you is a trip into the witchcraft world, the modern witchcraft world, a world populated with normal-looking, average-acting people who just happen to be witches and warlocks, and who happen to have everyday dealings with imps and cadavers, poltergeists and spirits, potions and hexes, and it's all real. You say it couldn't be in this day and age? Don't kid yourself. Listen to a typical conversation I had with one of my girlfriends.
Hello.
Hello, Sister Witch. How you doing?
Oh, darling, how are you?
Fine.
Did you get Lucy's message?
No, but I had the feeling that you've been burning candles for me, and you've been wanting me to call. As a matter of fact, it's been nagging at me, so I thought I'd better call and let you know.
I talked to Lucy last night, and I told her, I said, if you hear from that Barbara, I said, you tell her if she doesn't call me pretty soon, I'm going to burn black candles. No, really? I told her I'd psych you out.
Well, where do you think I've been?
I haven't even tried. I just figured it's none of my business. I just tuned out.
Yes, you know, which really kind of upset me. I was going to keep Martin, but I found out that Martin is practicing black witchcraft.
I thought so. He had the aura all around him, Barbara. I could pick it up.
As a matter of fact, he told me that he was going into blood rituals. So I had to stay completely away from him.
Even Deborah said that she picked up that he was just getting too evil.
Yes.
And Deborah's got a real nice boyfriend now.
Oh, she does?
But I'm afraid, she says she thinks he's, just an ordinary mortal, but
yeah,
maybe not. It's hard to tell.
Well, only time will tell. She can always change that if she wants.
Yeah, right.
And then, as modern women do, we started talking about evil rooms.
You should put a vase of graveyard dust in the room.
Oh, really?
It'll take all the evilness out.
What about one that's got an active one in it? My daughter's room up near Kaifa's got one in it. I saw it yesterday.
So that's what you should do. You should put graveyard dust in the room.
Well, I told her to talk to him and telling him just to turn around and look if there was people, waiting right there to take him over. Then he's just earthbound. And I was hoping maybe it'll work. Because I've done that with some of them, and finally they do turn around and they look, and then they go ahead and go. But
there was so much evil that came in with him.
Yeah.
And there was so much evil in his room that it would be ice cold constantly. And the room would hum.
Oh, boy. That's bad.
And you know that when we started selling the artifacts, the imp that I had began to take vengeance out on me and was biting me. And I would wake up with big bite marks on my body.
Oh,
and it cut my fingers. Every time I touched the coffin, it would cut me. And there's nothing in that coffin to cut me.
Yeah.
My fingers were all cut up. It didn't want to be sold.
Yeah.
So I still own it, and so it's fine now.
How'd you get it in the first place?
I bought it from some people that didn't give me very much information about it. But once I bought it, then they wanted it back.
I don't think I care for one of those.
Well, I'm not frightened of death, and it's just sort of, to me,
No,
it really...
I mean the imp.
Oh, the imp. Oh, I really don't want it either, but it seems like it goes with the coffin, and I'll have it until I get rid of the coffin, and the coffin I want, so I put up with the imp.
Yeah. No way
It's
of
been banging
destroying
and
her.
no, it's been banging and clanging around here in the apartment at night. It got real angry about it last week and threw itself on the floor. But so long as it doesn't bother anyone, particularly, that's all that matters. Once it starts getting vicious, then I guess I will have to get rid of my coffin.
Just two modern women gossiping to each other, but gossiping about witchcraft. You see, there are witches. 3 different kinds, as a matter of fact. I'm a gray witch. You've never heard of a gray witch? Quite possible. Most mortals think there is only one kind of witch. That's because dictionaries generally have one definition, which usually goes something like this: an ugly woman who enjoys spiritual powers through a contract she has made with the devil. That's like saying there's only one definition of a doctor or a fish. At best, that definition would only describe one kind of witch, the black witch. As a gray witch, I can assure you I've made no pact with the devil. And, hang on to your wolfsbane now, the white witch won't have anything to do with the devil. In fact, she worships God. That's right, God. That big good spirit in the sky, in whose name so many witches have been burned alive. But I'll tell you more about the different flavors that witchcraft comes in later. Back to those grand old men of the dictionaries. If you think they treated witches bad, wait till you hear what they did, or I should say didn't do, to warlocks. Most modern dictionaries don't even list them. By their omission, it would seem that these men are telling us warlocks have never and don't presently exist, right? Wrong. Unsophisticated dictionaries, written as early as 1721, state that a warlock is,
quote, one in league with the devil and possessing occult and evil powers, the male equivalent of witch, end quote.
And the man who just read that quote should know. He's a gray warlock. His name is J.C. You'll be hearing a lot more from J.C. as this album goes on. You see, they weren't killed off by little economy cars, polluted water, and smog. They're just as much alive today as you and I. But you should only count on yourself, because I'm a witch, remember? Witchcraft is the oldest religion in existence. Before anyone was reading or writing anything, incantation and potions were being used against enemies. Drawings on European caves date back to the beginning of man. Symbols of witchcraft have been found from every race and from every nation of the world. Yet despite all this evidence, mortals are still suffering from a total lack of, or completely mixed up knowledge of, is there ain't a witchcraft. Even though I've recently lectured in colleges, high schools, and believe it or not, some open-minded churches have invited me to speak to interested members of their congregation. But to be truthful, this is hardly typical of the reaction most churches have about witchcraft. The remarks of one Lutheran minister in Southern California probably reveals more about the church's true feelings. Without revealing my identity, I said that a girlfriend had told me that a woman could sometimes be born a witch. The Reverend took a second and a half for deep thought and gave me his reply, which J.C. will quote.
She's clear off her rocker.
I, being unaccustomed to such quick and authentic answers, repeated, she's off her rocker? And the Reverend added to his theory.
Clear off her rocker. She's battier than the bat in the belfry. She's fruitier than a fruitcake.
Impressed with the lack of cliches in his answers, I bore on. My girlfriend says she's a black witch. The Reverend took a deep breath, filled with concern, leaned close to the mouthpiece, and J.C. again quotes.
Is she black?
I assured him that this was her classification, not her color, and he was relieved enough to continue. After much denial of witchcraft and devil worship, the Reverend suddenly revealed.
Our boy took a course in Satan work, and I preached 5 sermons on the subject. It's entirely too complicated for any uneducated person to fluff off and say you're a witch. The devil is too complicated. But I do believe there are 2 forces in the world today, and I believe in the devil.
I then said that, like the Reverend, my girlfriend also believes in the devil.
She doesn't know. She has no way of knowing. Anyone who says they know it, they're dummies. Nobody with an education would ever think to know it. The fact that she claims she knows indicates she's off her rocker.
I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it sounds like if you've had a formal education and say you believe in the devil, it's okay. Otherwise, it's clear you're off your rocker. All of those statements were actual quotes from this Reverend's advice to me. Built on logic like this, you can see why the churches are having trouble. And apparently this good Reverend, like many of his brethren, doesn't remember that churches and churchmen have acknowledged the existence of magical power. The Catholic Church has always recognized the fact that a person can be possessed by the devil. They even wrote into the Church's Articles of Canon Law, Articles 11, 51, 52, and 53, which describes how to hold an exorcism ceremony to free a possessed person. And on the other side of the cross, Martin Luther let fly an inkwell at a demon who was bugging him. And no less than Reverend Samuel Wesley, father of the founder of the Methodist faith, invited a spirit out into the alley for a punch in the mouth. It's all there in their history, but churches refuse to accept it. But that's their problem, not mine. While church membership goes down, witchcraft membership goes up. It's getting bigger and healthier by the day, and it won't stop because young people are just discovering it. They're discovering it as an alternative to the other avenues they've exhausted. They've been to their parents for help. They've tried the church, but you've just heard how open-minded the church is. Young people have also tried the government and politicians and drugs, but they've always come up empty. These people, dissatisfied mentally and spiritually, are turning to witchcraft. I should interject a word of caution here against one particular phase of Black Witchcraft, which has recently received a lot of national attention, and that's their use of drugs. The Black Witchcraft realm allows the use of drugs, and almost anything else. And many young people are turning to it, not because of the witchcraft, but because of the drugs. And that's a cheap cop-out. That isn't witchcraft, that's drug addiction. You cannot develop your mind where I'll try and lead you if it's bogged down and blown apart by drugs or the heavy use of alcohol. This may come as a big surprise to many of you, but most witchcraft demands that you be clean. You'll automatically go on your own personal highs. And this is not through hypnosis. This high comes through a new power. You'll turn on your inner self. You'll literally explode into hundreds of brilliant mental pieces, and none of them will be artificially produced, because witchcraft, especially gray witchcraft, demands mental development beyond the concepts of most mortals. You'll actually be using upwards of 35% of your brain instead of the 10% that most mortals coast through life using. There are many rewards awaiting you in witchcraft, and you'll be able to enjoy most of them here in this life. That's one of the reasons for the popularity of witchcraft. You won't have to wait for death to see if you've been good, because though witchcraft deals frequently with the other life, it's primarily for immediate use. It can give you beauty and prosperity, health, sexual happiness. There are many potions and rituals designed to help you in these areas. I can't guarantee success, but within a very short time, you'll be able to decide whether you're achieving these goals or not. There's nothing else around that makes you an offer like this. If you don't think it's working for you, forget it. What I'd like to do in this album is explain quite calmly all about modern witchcraft, and through a series of tests, we'll eventually find out if you could be a witch or warlock. But remember this, even if it turns out you're just a mortal, you can still practice witchcraft, and with a little training get awfully good at it. Based on my own research, which is admittedly limited, but national researchers are awfully slow on witchcraft polls, I feel 1 out of every 10 people in the United States practices witchcraft. Oh, right away I hear you say, listen, out of all my friends, none of them look or act like a witch or warlock, which only proves my point. See, you've fallen for our Hollywood image too, because some of the nicest people you'll ever want to meet are practicing witchcraft. In fact, you may already know many of them.
I'll only use my middle name, Robert. I'm 43, and I'm a white warlock. I've communicated with God since I was 6, and I've cured several incurable illnesses and have predicted many things. I use my mental powers in my work and have made a lot of money for many of my clients. I'm vice president of a large stock brokerage firm.
My name is Stella. I live in the southwest part of the United States. I'm happily married. I have 3 children. I'm the president of my local PTA, and I'm a gray witch.
I'm Conrad. I'm the vice president of a large bank in Chicago. I'm also the high priest of a black coven.
Surprise you? It shouldn't. Anyone can be a witch or warlock, and more than you think are. We just don't dress to fit the last horror film that blew through town. Your girlfriend next door might be worshiping a cadaver and have an imp at her calling. Your rosy-cheeked pastor might moonlight giving black masses. You say you'd know? My first husband didn't know I was a witch for 2 years of marriage. I'd always been afraid he wouldn't understand. When I finally told him, he didn't disappoint me. 2 months later, we were divorced. Have you ever thought about your mate being a witch or warlock? Are they restless at night? Does he sometimes know what you're going to say before you say it? Has it ever sounded like she was talking to someone, but when you walked in, she was by herself? Only 1 out of 500 people will admit to practicing witchcraft, even to relatives or close friends, and for good reason. But that's going to change. Witches and warlocks are tired of being persecuted and hiding. We've been doing it for thousands of years, but the times are changing.
This is a place at this point where ego should be laid on the line and people should stand up for a cause.
That's right. And you know what we feel? We feel, Dale, JC and I feel that if we make a path and we open the first door, then it's going to give a chance for all the other witches and warlocks in the world to finally come out and stand up for what they believe in and stop being condemned.
See, witches and warlocks get emotional too. Being better understood and accepted in modern society is a common goal, and there are many witches and warlocks burning candles, hoping for your understanding. And now, what about you? Could you be a witch or warlock? You may think it strange a person like yourself, sensible, kind, and good-looking, could go through life without knowing if you're a witch or warlock. But most people don't know until they contact someone in a realm of witchcraft and are put through a series of tests. I'd guess that 1 out of every 1,000 people are born a witch or warlock. So you've got a slight chance. And since you bought this album, you must think you've got a chance too. Now let's get down to the exciting business of determining if you are or if you ain't. I'll be your guide. I'll lead you to the magic spot where you will decide if you are a witch or warlock. It's your decision. Now there's a lot of questions to be answered before you can decide. Don't be discouraged if your answers don't come the first time you hear the question. There are no right or wrong answers. You may have to listen 6 or 7 times before your mind can be coaxed to reach back through the years for a piece of the puzzle, but it's worth it. Try listening to this part by yourself, at midnight. The stroke of midnight is limbo. It's the end and the beginning. It's when your mind and your body offers the least resistance. And burn a large white candle on a red candle holder near your phonograph. On either side of the candle, burn orange blossom incense in gold incense burners. Wear a loose, flowing white robe. White is the color of spiritualism, purification, and mind-searching. You should wear nothing under the robe so that your body will be totally relaxed and receptive. You must not drink or smoke as you listen. Your mind must be totally occupied with my voice. Now lean back and relax. And don't be afraid. I'll be your guide. Everything you'll discover has already been. Let the days that were turn back. Look for the child that you once were. Find the earliest memories of your mind. That's where you began, and that's where we'll begin. Is there a history of witchcraft in your immediate family? Aunts, uncles, a strange cousin? If the answer is yes, you're off to a flying start. In my case, my 2nd generation and my 4th generation grandmothers on my father's side were both witches, and they were burned at the stake to prove it. There are certain physical signs that are sometimes clues, but they are not in any way conclusive answers. Being born with eyes of different colors, birthmarks shaped like a crucifix, 2-toned hair, being born the 7th child of the 7th child. My 2nd generation grandmother looked just like my 4th generation grandmother, and my facial features are exactly the same as my grandmother's. A coincidence? Maybe. But both of these women were under 5 feet tall, weighed 90 pounds, were born albinos, and so was I. After the 2nd week of life, each of us had our eyes turned from pink to blue. Based on these facts, I know I am the reincarnation of my grandmothers. And this isn't as strange as it first sounds. Even the Bible makes several references to reincarnation. Jesus hit Nicodemus with a line that was, "No man ascended up to heaven but he that came down from heaven." Jeremiah said God had told him that he had been on earth before in somebody else's body. Sounds like a little reincarnation, doesn't it? So if you've got the reincarnation chills, don't worry about it. It's real, and a lot of people are beginning to turn on to it. Now think back. Were you an exceptional child?
Do you have memories of an unusually early age?
Did you walk when you were still quite young?
Did you talk when you were still quite young?
As a child, were you unusually bright?
Were you born with a photographic memory?
Were you constantly told you seem a lot older than your age? You might be centuries older. Though I didn't have a photographic mind as a child, I was unique in several other ways. I was walking and talking by the time I was a year old, and at the age of 3, after visiting my grandmother's house, I started crying. My mother asked me why, and I told her, "Grandma's going to die tomorrow." Though they certainly tried, no one could convince me otherwise, and my grandmother did die the next day. I have also foreseen the death in my family of an uncle, an aunt, and a stepsister. When I still was quite young, relatives who had died before I was born began to appear and talk to me. My grandfather on my father's side was the first. Like most children, I was known to be pretty destructive. Because of this, a family album was always kept under lock and key. So when I woke up in the middle of the night and found a man I'd never seen before sitting at the end of my bed, I was more than a little shook. He asked if I knew who he was. I said no, and I asked if my daddy knew he was there. He said no and told me he was my grandfather. He was very pleasant, and I sat up as we talked. I remember he told me a story which made me laugh. Then he said he had to go and asked if he could tuck me in. As he pulled the covers around me, he gave me a tickle and then a light kiss. His touch was very warm. In the morning I told my parents about talking with Grandpa. They didn't pay any attention to me till I described him. Then my dad looked surprised and got our family album. He showed me a picture and asked if that was a man. I said it was, and he got very angry and said that was my grandfather who had died before I was born. My dad told me never to talk about it again, and so I didn't. But my grandfather continued to visit me for years. If your childhood is dotted with similar examples, there's a good chance you were born a witch or warlock. The childhood test is just the beginning. Now that your mind is awakened to your early years, you'll find yourself continuing to probe. But even if you answered all the questions no, don't worry. You might be a late developing witch or warlock, one who didn't exhibit signs until puberty or beyond. So now let the pages turn forward into adulthood. Have you ever experienced ESP? Extrasensory perception is the ability to read the brain waves of another person or the vibrations from an object through other than normal senses. Now, everyone is born with some degree of ESP, but this power is easily inhibited. If people are brought up to think it's unnatural, most people won't try it. But many years ago, Sigmund Freud advanced the theory that forms of ESP were the original means of communication. And ESP, as a means of communication and power, is the goal of modern witches and warlocks, especially in the gray realm. Most ESP goes unnoticed or stops with a turn at the Ouija board, but witches and warlocks know the secrets of turning it on. Now that you know ESP isn't a freak thing, answer the following questions honestly. Have you ever felt that the phone would ring and it did?
Have you ever thought of someone down the block, or for that matter 3,000 miles away, just before they unexpectedly drop in or send you a letter?
Have you ever been listening to someone as they talk and know exactly what they're going to say before they say it?
Has someone ever promised they'd come over to see you, and you got ready for their visit, knowing all the while they weren't coming, and they didn't?
Have you wanted a certain dress or shirt in a store window, but knew that when you asked for it they wouldn't have it in your size and you were right?
Have you ever suddenly had the feeling that some distant relative or friend is sick or has been in an accident, and you call them and discover you're right?
Have you ever met someone for the first time and felt very bad vibrations from him, but for social or business reasons you ignore the feeling, only to have him prove you were right.
Have you ever spent a whole day thinking about this one kind of food, and then find that that's what you're going to have for dinner?
Have you ever known that the doorbell or phone would ring as soon as you got into your bath or shower, and when you did, it did?
Have you ever known who someone is before you've been introduced to them?
If you answered yes to 7 or 8 of these 10 questions, you've got a lot of ESP working for you. Have you ever experienced psychic phenomena? This is having a dream come true. It's sometimes called dream predicting. Here's a few questions to probe this area. Have you ever dreamed of someone you haven't seen in a long time, and the next day you hear from them?
Have you ever had a dream involving the death of a friend or someone in your family, and in a short time they pass away?
Have you ever dreamed about a room or a place that you've never seen, and within a few months find yourself in that room or that place?
Have you ever dreamed a dream where the atmosphere, not the place or people, was the predominant thing, and within a matter of months you find yourself overwhelmed by that same haunting feeling of atmosphere?
Have you ever dreamed of a face that you've never seen before, only to meet that person within a few months? Maybe your dreams were slightly different than how it happened in real life, but if you were able to answer 2 of these questions with a qualified yes, you may have psychic phenomena. Have you recently noticed telepathic powers? Have there been times when you've gone into the shower or turned on your bath and heard voices calling you? In many cases, this isn't your imagination or squeaky pipes, but voices from the other life. If it happens often, and the plumber can't find anything to fix, you can bet someone's trying to tell you something. Voices also project themselves through things like motors, so listen closely. The things I've asked you might have happened to anyone. Only you can determine if you think these happenings are more than a coincidence. And even if they haven't happened to you yet, stay alert to all these things, because they might start tomorrow, and they're all excellent signs of being a witch or warlock. Now here's a few interesting tests to give yourself as you begin to explore new areas and develop your powers of ESP and psychic phenomena. Since I can't be there to help you, you'll have to confide in a close friend, as most of the tests require another person. Success or failure with these tests doesn't automatically qualify or disqualify you. I mean, a red flag doesn't drop from the sky and say, "Wow, look at you, you're a witch." These tests have been designed to make your mind more receptive to the new experiences I'll have for you shortly. There are 3 basic ESP tests, and they all require 2 people. One person testing his ESP abilities and the other conducting the test. This other person, by the way, should be highly developed in ESP, or at least very interested, as a non-believer would seriously hamper your progress.
The person who wants his ESP tested should be put into a room with pencil, paper, and clock. All doors to this room must remain closed to prevent distractions. The other person can go anywhere else in the house. Neither of you can smoke or drink during this experiment. During a 1-hour period, the outside person should concentrate on the student's name a certain number of times. When he does, he writes down the exact time. The student must note the exact time he picks up any ESP vibrations.
The first time you do this, if you have the exact time of 1 or 2 out of the, say, 10 times the other person communicated with you, whoopee-doo. Just keep practicing, and you'll quickly increase your percentages. Soon you'll be right over half the time. When you reach or exceed 75% correct on this test, you're ready to advance to ESP test number 2. Now that your ESP has been revived, sit down at a table. Have someone blindfold you. From a magazine you've never seen before, have a friend cut out 10 different pictures. Your helper should number the pictures from 1 to 10, then give them to you one at a time. Hold each picture and study it slowly. Try to see it through the vibrations your mind will receive. Then describe your feelings or impressions out loud. Your friend will write down your impressions. It isn't necessary to describe the picture. What we are looking for is the impression your mind receives. For instance, I gave a picture of Niagara Falls to a 15-year-old student of mine. He didn't say the picture was Niagara Falls, but he did tell me he felt strength, power, and a feeling of falling and coldness. He also said he felt a sensation of loudness, which he couldn't explain. This was an excellent example of successful ESP. The correct impressions when you first begin this test will be very small. If you get one right out of the 10 pictures, be happy. The more you practice, the faster your powers increase. When you're able to get over 50% correct, you may move on to ESP test number 3, the most difficult one. Have a friend bring over someone you've never met before. All 3 of you sit in a room. No one but you should talk until the experiment is over. Ask the stranger for something personal to hold. Car keys, a lipstick tube, watch, ring. Obviously nothing that would identify him. Then, holding the object in your hands, close your eyes. Concentrate on the item and what it's telling you. You'll begin to see things belonging to the person. A name, a place, a past, other people, a future, an accident. Say the messages out loud as you receive them. Don't try to rationalize or justify them at the time. The first impressions that come to you will usually be the most correct. If the messages are scarce, do not force additional answers. This will only confuse your train of thought. Never let this test exceed an hour, as your mind will become tired and unable to receive the vibrations. Again, don't be disappointed if your answers are about 20 to 25% correct. This is the hardest ESP test of all. Expect to devote more time to it, but it is a key test, the stepping stone into telepathy. There are no tests for telepathy. When your mind is ready, you just indulge in it. You and other people, especially witches and warlocks, will have an exciting conversation without one word being spoken. It's one of the most stimulating experiences you'll ever have, because your thoughts pour forth and are received without being censored. Telepathy makes the very act of conversation a fantastic trip, and if you have some doubts that it's real, just turn to the Christians. They've been indulging in telepathy for over 2,000 years. Because isn't the act of prayer telepathy? They're mentally communicating with a person's spirit or force that's in another location. No matter how you cut it, that's telepathy. Now for the psychic phenomena test. This isn't a quickie. In fact, you'll have to buy a diary covering a year. Always keep the diary and a pencil close to your bed for your dreams. Each morning, write down your dreams from the night before in as much detail as possible. As the days, weeks, and months pass, certain things will happen that you'll feel have happened to you before. That's when you check your diary and see if, when, and how often you've had this dream. For instance, I had this one dream many times during a year. I was in a car. I couldn't see the face of the man driving. It was always at night and always raining. We were lost and I was looking for a road sign. Suddenly I was lying in the wet pavement. I couldn't get up. I felt I'd fallen out of the car and been killed. A year later I was driving with my husband. It was dark, raining, and we were off the main highway. As I looked out the car window for street signs, I suddenly realized this was exactly like my dream. Just then we were hit by an oncoming car. I woke up on the wet pavement. The only thing different from my dream, I was able to get up and walk away. There's no right or wrong answers for psychic phenomena. Just log your dreams and see how many come true. Over the months, you'll determine the strength of your own psychic phenomena. By the way, there have been many cases of people dreaming the same dream several nights in a row. If this should happen to you, don't get alarmed. However, if this recurring dream does come true, it's a strong indication that your psychic phenomena abilities are far above the average mortals. Another exciting test is trying to contact a spirit. That's right, gang. Up to now, we've only been playing within your mind. But now we go outside, way outside, and you won't have to keep score for this one. You're going to know rather quickly how successful you've been. Now, the easiest and safest way to contact a spirit is through the good old, dependable Ouija board. The only problem with the Ouija board is that these spirits are normally earthbound spirits, people who have committed suicides or imps and cadavers. In my opinion, the unfortunate thing is most people still don't know how to use the Ouija board. 2 people must use it, but only one must touch the dial. This person must place all fingers very lightly on the edge of the dial facing the board, with the word Ouija at the top. To block the subconscious from directing the spelling, this person must keep his eyes closed at all times. The second person must sit on the right-hand side of you with a pad and pencil and write down all the letters indicated by the dial. At the top of the board, not on it, but touching it, should be a large white candle in a red holder. Sandalwood incense should be burned before or during the use of the board. This is the safest form of contacting a spirit, because if it's undesirable to you, just pick up the Ouija board and put it away, and that's the end of Mr. Spirit. By the way, to keep the Ouija board working successfully, I have also devised a way of cleaning and storing the board, which I explain in my seance album. Now on to the spirit from the other side, beyond this earth. You're going to try and call forth a spirit from one of the 7 dimensions of the mortal life hereafter. Although anyone can do this fairly simple test, I'd suggest a fair amount of practice on the other tests before you try this one. Place a large white candle in a large red candle holder. On each side of the candle, place sandalwood incense in red burners. You can do this in any room, but make sure the heating and cooling systems, lights, and all electrical appliances are turned off. All draperies, windows, and doors must be closed. Then, wearing a white robe, sit with your legs crossed, hands folded in your lap, and recite the 23rd Psalm, omitting the Amen.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Then close your eyes and say once,
O spirits of the 7 realms of the mortal world, and spirits of the 4 dimensions of the witchcraft world, I beckon you unto me.
Then think of receiving. Think of receiving a spirit from the 4th and 7th dimensions of the spiritualistic world. It will come to you if it believes in you. So believe in it. Believe in the spirits from the 7 dimensions. Think of meeting this spirit. Think of all the questions you have about the other life. This is also done by a black or white high priest or priestess as a display of their strength to their occult members. In this case, the ceremony is usually held on a hill or mountaintop, where the priestess will beckon all the spirits of the world hereafter, who will make their presence known through the wind. 2 torches are placed about 10 feet apart, with 1 incense stand on the outside of the torches. The high priestess steps between the torches and raises her arms and eyes to the sky. She's wearing a white robe and is barefoot. The other occult members are also barefoot and wearing white robes and are standing in a single line behind the priestess. They have their arms crossed and hands joined together and are swaying back and forth to the rhythm as they hum and chant with her. The priestess faces north as she begins the chant. In answer to her call, the wind begins to slowly come to her. She then turns in another direction, beckoning the spirits from that corner of the earth. As the wind increases in strength, she turns to the other 2 directions, beckoning those spirits and completing her circle. The spirits have now surrounded the occult members and are making the strength of their high priestess felt through the violence of the wind.
Doe-Dee la do mankaya, Doe-Dee la do mankaya, Doe-Dee la do mankaya, Doe-Dee la do mankaya, Doe-Dee, Doe-Dee, Doe-Dee.
Many times, especially when you're doing this alone in your early experiments, the only physical signs of receiving a spirit might be a sudden cold chill or draft as it enters the room. Or you may feel as though someone's trying to pull you away from where you're sitting. You may start to rock uncontrollably. The flame on the candle may begin to jump crazily in the closed room. For a fleeting moment, you may actually see something whiz past you like a shadow without a body, or the spirit may make it easy for you and materialize right in front of your eyes, as solid as you or I. No matter how the spirit does it, once it enters the room, be cool. Don't go grabbing at it or jumping around. Let it make the first move. Let it try to communicate with you. It may only be able to rap on the wall or floor, and you'll have to figure out a way to communicate with it. It may be able to write, or it may motion you to pick up a pencil, and it will proceed to write using your hand. Or it may be able to talk. It may want to touch you, but don't you try to touch it. Most spirits are not in solid form, and you may drive it away if you reach for it. It's very unlikely that from this exercise you'll receive an unhappy spirit, since there's nothing satanistic about this particular type of beckoning. A demon is the only spirit who can be harmful, and they'll only appear after prolonged rituals and chants from the black realm. However, if you find the spirit undesirable, or you've suddenly changed your mind about the whole thing, don't panic. There's a really simple way to get rid of any spirit. In fact, it's one of the very few things horror films are right about. If you want to send the spirit back, just invoke the name Lord, or Lord God, or Jehovah. Just lay one of these good names on it and order it back into the realm from which it came. Back it'll go, just like that. In closing your hour of beckoning a spirit or spirits, you must say,
O mortal spirits of the 7 realms of the life hereafter, and spirits of the 4 dimensions of the witchcraft realm, leave this room and house and go back into your own dimensions. Come again only when I call upon you. Amen.
As you practice these experiments and others that I've detailed on other albums, you'll either find them becoming very easy or very boring. If you're getting bored, it's pretty sure you're just a mortal, and that's not too bad. Just try to be more tolerant about witchcraft and a lot of other things. However, even if you still have doubts about being born to witchcraft, but you're enjoying the experiments, let's just assume you could be a mortal who's developing a liking for practicing witchcraft. Don't give up all hope of being a witch or warlock yet. There's a lot more to come. And each time we turn a corner, that cold chill might sweep through you with the realization that you've been down this road before. Now let's resume the search. As a gray witch, I'm the best guide you could hope for, because only members of the gray know the principles of all 3 realms. Now when and if you decide that you were born a witch or warlock, or would just like to practice as a mortal, it'll be up to you to choose the realm, black, white, or gray. Men and women are born to witchcraft, but they're not born to the black, white, or gray realm. You should choose the one you feel you can best serve for the rest of your life and beyond. Here's the basic breakdown on the 3 different witchcraft classifications. The black witch and warlock are demonologists. Their whole life evolves around Satan. As with all 3 realms of witchcraft, robes are the necessary attire. In the black realm, you'll need 3 different colors: white, red, and black. A white robe because it's the color of purification. It'll be used for the black mass and christenings. Yes, Virginia, even the black occults have christenings. In fact, most black witches or warlocks are given a christening chant. It's an acceptance prayer into the black realm. You'll keep this chant through your life in the cult as your everyday prayer. The language used in most chants is pure and simple witchcraft babble. The words are from a mixture of languages. Sometimes the words mean nothing and aren't even important to the chant. It's only the melody, and the babble could be anything as long as it's in rhyming form. The only words that stay the same in a babble are the names of the god mentioned in the chant. I have a christening chant that I received upon entering the black realm, and it's taboo for anyone else to use it. In essence, your christening chant is asking Satan to bless you and the black occult members to accept you. You're dressed in a white robe without any undergarments, shoes, or jewelry. The high priest or priestess and the other occult members are wearing black. You kiss the robe of the high priest or priestess 3 times and then sit in the middle of a pentagram. That's a 5-pointed star. You're surrounded by 8 white candles. As you start chanting, the other occult members hum along and join in the chanting later. My christening chant is called Me-O-Me.
Me-O-Me, tandoles me-O-Ma. Me-O-Me, tandoles me-Ma, me-O-La.
Your red robe will be used for making offerings to Satan. These days, the offerings consist mostly of fruit and stuff, but in the old days, red robes symbolized the blood sacrifices, ranging from a drop of blood in a goblet of wine to the slaying of a small animal. In the really rough cults, some of which still exist, blood sacrifices can extend to the eating of small infants born to a witch made pregnant by the high priest or another male member. Your black robe will be used for meditation and beckoning Satan. That's right, gang, beckoning Satan. And it's not unusual for Satan or some of his demons to appear and give the cult whatever it is they're asking for. They usually use a chant to call Satan on the first days of a black Sabbat. Let me describe the scene, and then I'll lay the chant on you. In the center of a dark room, there's a pentagram, and it has salt sprinkled around it as a protective shield. In a circle around the pentagram sits a coven of up to 13 witches and warlocks wearing black robes. Black candles and musk incense are burning. As the high priest or priestess begins to chant, the members join hands and begin to rock slowly back and forth. As the spirit of the chant moves them, they begin to sing with the priest or priestess. As the volume of the chant increases, they begin to rock faster. The volume and the rocking keep increasing until Satan or a demon arises from the pentagram. Satan or his demon may come in any body form, man, woman, animal, half and half. But when he arises, the chant comes to an immediate halt, and Satan or his demons ask why they were beckoned. The chant that gets this job done is called Demayo-Demío.
Demayo-Demío, Siculalan Demayo, Demayo-Demío, Siculalan Demayo. 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 Demayo-Demío, Siculalan Demayo, Demayo-Demío, Siculalan Demayo.
Do modern people really call forth Satan or demons?
We beckoned this demon, and he appeared to us. There was about 7 people in the room, and we were sitting around the table, and the room was full of spirits and different demons. We had placed ourselves inside a circle. The table was also round, and we created a circle around us for protection.
What did it look like? What was its name?
I don't recall his name. I recall what he looked like. He was mostly shadow, but he reminded me of his face physically reminded me of sea robin. Sea robin is a form of fish that has like gills sticking out from the sides, and a thing on the top. It had a fish-like mouth coming down, very thin. The nose wasn't really extremely long, but it was pointed. The eyes had no look in them at all. There was nothing there.
It didn't hurt you in any way?
No, because we had this shield around us.
If you wouldn't have had the shield, what do you think would have happened?
Possibly we would have tried to take over one of our bodies by physically entering the body and pushing the spirit out.
Satan and his demons are frequent visitors to the black occults that exist in every city across this land. You just don't hear about it because witches and warlocks are afraid to make public their beliefs, so they keep quiet, but not for much longer. If you're going to join a black occult, you're going to need black and red candles with individual matching holders, also a sconce that has either 9 candle holders or 13. Musk incense is the favorite in a black occult, and you'll need black and red burners. You must have offering bowls and a container, usually gold, filled with holy water. The holy water is kept for blessing personal belongings and can be either salt water from the ocean or homemade, 1 tablespoon of salt to 1 cup of water. It can also be urine from the high priestess or black witches mixed in with the semen from the high priest. or it can be water stolen from the local Catholic Church. You should also have some ashes of a Christian. That's right, the ashes of a Christian. But this doesn't have to be Aunt Maud fried to a crisp, although in the old days, and maybe in some of today's kinky occults, that's what it was all about. Just take a container with a tight cap. Fill it halfway with the very fine white powdery ashes from any fire. Then take this container down to a river or lake and immerse it in the water and say,
I baptize you in the name of Satan, Beelzebub, and Mephistopheles.
After anything is baptized, it's considered Christian, and it's a lot easier than trying to hold Aunt Maud down as you set her on fire. The ashes of a Christian are kept for good luck, and used at black sabbats to bless the members of the coven, just as Catholics use ashes on Ash Wednesday. As a full-fledged black occult member, you'll also need at least 3 altar bells. These bells are in graduated tones and will be used before and after you say your 3 daily homages to Satan.
O Father of the night and ruler of the flame, Master of the dark and devious, give me your strength and your wisdom, so I too may feel the power. Possess me, give me prosperity, give me lust for the human flesh, give me knowledge, give me strength, fill my desires and my needs. In return, I shall worship you all the days of my life and of the hereafter.
If you should become a high priest or priestess, you'll need 7 bells for your 7 daily homages. You can probably begin to see that the black realm isn't exactly a laugh-a-minute hobby. All realms of witchcraft are serious, but the black especially can't be taken lightly. In fact, it should be treated as a narcotic because it's habit-forming. Anyway, back to what you'll need. Your room, the one used for praying to Satan, should be dark with windows blacked out. On the floor, draw a pentagram. Keep a small table or altar at one end of the room. This should face west because east is the traditional direction of Christianity and you're turning your back on all that. This table will be covered by a black altar cloth. At each end, place 2 large black candles in matching holders. On the table should also sit a silver chalice and altar knife. Holy water and an animal skull or plaster of Paris human skull should be handy too, along with your book of shadows. This is your constantly growing book of recipes and inner thoughts about witchcraft. Over the table should be a sign of Satan. Now, if that sounds like a groovy atmosphere in which your spiritualism juices could flow, it's time for you to find a black occult member. Finding your local coven is easy. Most occult bookstores are excellent starting points. Believe me, they won't laugh when you ask. In fact, they may belong to a coven. If there isn't an occult shop in your area, ask around among close friends. If you're not successful, drop me a note at DEA Records. And keep practicing, because other witches and warlocks will sense your abilities. Once you've found a black occult, what should you expect? First, a member will come to see you. If he's sure you're serious, you'll be invited to a couple weekly meetings. Your name will then be offered to the coven for a vote. Once accepted, you should be prepared for a vigorous initiation. Wearing a white robe with nothing underneath, you'll be asked by the high priest or priestess to drink wine from the official chalice. You'll write your name on rice paper in blood, usually yours, then it's burned. This is your pact with Satan. Then you'll be blessed by the high priest or priestess and taken to this circle of purification. This is a ring of salt around a very large pentagram. You'll then strip nude and be blindfolded. You'll lay down on the pentagram. If you're a female, the high priest or another male member will take on the role of Satan and have sexual intercourse with you. You'll never know who the man was. His body, representing Satan, joining with yours, is the final seal on your contract.
If you are a male, the high priestess or another female member will take on the role of mother of sin, and your contract will be sealed in the same way.
Once purified, you'll put your robe on and be blessed again. You're now an official member. Wines and drugs are sometimes brought out and your purification celebrated with a good old-fashioned orgy. Whoopee-doo. After your christening, you're now entitled to all the benefits that come with black witchcraft. A prayer to Satan will usually reward you with an imp and a cadaver. The cadaver will appear visually, But watch out for him. He's going to become Satan to you. He's been sent for you to worship. If your cadaver finds fault with you, he can punish you, and, if necessary, finally kill you. The imp usually makes his entrance through the body of an animal. He'll just appear at your door one day, or take possession of an existing pet. This will become your familiar. He'll protect you and give you extra strength for casting spells. The imp can also leave the body of your familiar to carry out your bidding. The more power you develop, the more imps and cadavers Satan will send you. As long as we're on the subject, though, your contract with Satan also means that when you die in this life, you will become an imp or cadaver in the next. If you become a high priest or priestess in this life, you'll become a cadaver. If you're simply a disciple in this life, you'll only be an imp. And when you finally lose your usefulness in the next life, Satan will destroy you. Kapooey. The Black Realm also has the very complex but beautiful High Mass. This is a total blasphemy of the Roman Catholic Mass, which features prayers like,
Amen. Forever glory thee and power thee and kingdom thee is thine for. Evil from us deliver but temptation into not us lead and us against trespass have who those forgive, we as trespasses our us forgive and bread daily our day this us give. Heaven in is it as earth on. Done be will thy. Come kingdom thy. Name thy be hallowed. Heaven in art who Father our.
If you didn't guess it, that's the Lord's Prayer backwards. Now here's one of the chants used at some black masses. This chant is used when the occult needs something that can only be obtained through Satan's powers. All occult members are wearing white robes, and the high priest or priestess has a prayer ribbon, purple trimmed in gold, draped around the neck. In white holders, musk incense and white candles are burning. The high priest or priestess is working behind an altar, faced by the disciples usually seated in a half circle. The chant begins by blessing the others with holy water. The disciples hum along and then begin their own chant, which forms a background for the petitioning voice. This chant is called Domé.
Domé eston la, Domé eston da, Domé eston la, la ti dena, la ti bena, la ti dena, to do la. Domé eston la, Domé eston da, Domé eston la, la ti dena, la ti bena, la ti dena, to do la. Domé eston la, Domé eston da, Domé eston la, la ti dena, la ti bena, la ti dena, to do la.
Domé, 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 Domé.
La ti dena, la ti bena, la ti dena, to do la. La ti dena, la ti bena, la ti dena, to do la.
Domé, 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 Domé.
La ti dena.
Now, if Satan isn't your cup of potion, how about God? Because white witchcraft is all about God. The only exception is a white witch practicing voodoo. Her beliefs are more closely related to black witchcraft. White witches and warlocks pray to God constantly and loathe Satan. They feel they're already one of God's angels and usually make a fair living as the local fortune teller, astrologer, tarot, or palm reader. Many white witches or warlocks are faith healers, feeling God's power is projected through them. They claim they can remove warts from your bod, cure your colds, give instant relief to leprosy or cancer, and do it all for $2. If I sound slightly facetious, it's because I am. I personally feel the only qualified medical people are doctors, but I must admit that most faith healers have a pretty impressive list of so-called cured patients. Even under close investigation, these cures hold up. These patients feel they were cured, and that in itself is an impressive act of witchcraft. Now, if doing good can turn you on, you should really think about white witchcraft. But let me give you a warning. Most people in it do not call themselves witch or warlock. They're a medium, spiritualist, or healer. After all, your Aunt Sadie probably tells everyone about her favorite palm reader, but she'd get a lot of weird looks if she talked about her white witch. But believe me, most of the difference is just in the name. Because while the spiritualist, or whatever other name she's using, is giving credit to God on one hand, on the other she's making magic potions, holding seances, and predicting events to come. So be careful. If you're leaning toward the white, remember it's a thin line between Christianity and witchcraft. Compared to the black, going into the white will save you on robes, because you're only going to need white. White is the color of spiritualism and purification, and it fits in well with the public's acceptance of your realm of Christianity. You should always wear a crucifix too. They're like that. You'll need tarot cards, and will have to learn to read them. Not by the book, but that's fine for a start. You must learn to use the cards as they were intended, a piece of show business to make the customer feel he's getting his money's worth. The actual reading of his past, present, and future comes through your use of ESP. ESP is the strength in tarot, not the cards. You'll need white candles with white, silver, gold, or red candle holders. You should have incense burners to match with pleasant fragrances. You're going to need a room for meditation and prayer. It should be dark and contain a large table with 12 chairs. On it should be placed a large white candle in a red holder. In one corner should be a small table or altar covered with a white altar cloth. Over it should be a picture of Jesus or a crucifix. On your altar you'll want your Bibles, a good astrology book, and your book of shadows, containing not only your inner beliefs, but your daily prayers. On each side you'll need a white candle in a red candle holder, and in the center a gold incense burner. A storage cupboard will be needed for such things as your 3 holy bells. These bells should all be high-pitched to keep away the evil spirits. In this cupboard you'll also store your white linen prayer cloths. These are placed on a person's body to heal whatever's ailing them. You'll also keep holy water. In the white realm, holy water is usually obtained from the Catholic Church or by boiling it vigorously, then cooling and pouring it into a large jar, which is kept outside overnight, uncapped. The night air purifies the water. To become a member of a white occult, try contacting your local medium, palmist, faith healer, or fortune teller. If they can't help you, drop me a note and I'll try to let you know where the whiteys are holding their weekly meetings. Keep practicing your craft. Like the other realms, the other witches and warlocks will begin to feel your powers. After finding a white occult, you normally will be invited to a prayer meeting and a seance or two. Then if they like you, you'll be asked to confess that all your powers come from God, and you're put to a vote. When you're accepted, you'll join the others at a river or lake at dawn for a good old-fashioned baptism. After the dunk, you're a disciple of God in this life and the life hereafter, and you can get on with being a white witch or warlock. Your coven will consist of up to 12 members. Your weekly meetings will usually center around healing Mrs. James of her cancer or little Bobby of his gimpy leg. These will be like prayerful church meetings. The difference is that witchcraft is skillfully mixed in. For instance, no white coven can stand evil, and they won't just say prayers to rid the neighborhood of undesirables. They'll perform some rituals that border on voodoo. These rituals will be performed on Saturday, and a doll-like replica will be made of Sally the prostitute or Pancho the pusher. The coven will tie the hands and feet of the replica to symbolize restraint from their nasty actions. If this doesn't work, next Saturday's meeting will find the members beginning to probe with needles. And before it's all over, Sally and Pancho are stopped, one way or the other. Other non-church activities are noticed when the coven sets up a room for a seance. The high priest or priestess, usually calling themselves mediums, direct the seance. He'll sit at a table with from 1 to 11 others. A holder containing a large candle is placed in the center. The color of the candle holder and incense burners, plus the fragrance used, is up to the medium. The medium then may begin to chant and continues until a spirit takes possession of his body.
Om Omni Padme Om. Om Omni Padme Om. Om Omni Padme Om.
If they have nothing specific planned, the meeting might be spent studying the zodiac, working the Ouija, or reading the tarot. As with all other realms, these regular get-togethers are a necessary aid in continually improving the craft. A happy time for any white occult is the Fertility High Mass. This happens 4 times a year, at the beginning of each season. The high priestess wears a red robe. All the disciples wear white. Red candles are burning in 2 9-candle sconces, and rose incense is burning from red burners. They may use this Mass to pray to God for something special or just to thank Him. Or here's where witchcraft comes in again. They may be praying to a god or goddess who isn't in the Bible, like Shamoo-Ra. Shamoo-Ra is a protector of lost souls. A prayer to Shamoo-Ra is often chanted during this high Mass. Bells are rung, mostly after Shamoo-Ra's name is sung. The high priestess starts out this chant and is soon joined by the disciples. Shamoo-Ra brings vibrations that will surround the members and protect them from evil spirits.
Deamula, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Deamula, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Shamoo-Ra, Shamoo-Ra. Shamoo-Ra, Shamoo-Ra. Deamula, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Deamula, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Shamoo-Ra, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Deamula, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Deamula, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Shamoo-Ra, 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 Shamoo-Ra. Shamoo-Ra, Shamoo-Ra,
That's white witchcraft. But it's seldom called witchcraft. It's called having your tarot read, faith healing, and owning a Ouija board. And if you enjoy it, beautiful. But let's call it what it is, white witchcraft. Now we come to the gray witch and warlock. Of the three, the gray realm is a modern realm. A gray witch doesn't worship Satan, though she respects his powers and knows his weak points. She doesn't worship God, but believes in a good force. She doesn't rely on either. Her strength comes from mental power. Unlike most religions, the gray realm is built on mind development. The gray doesn't even have a high priest or priestess, so no disciples. Everyone's an equal. Your only limit is your own mind. But like the other realms, there are dangers in the gray. It's the hardest type of witchcraft because you have no crutch. Satan won't do your legwork, and a prayer to God won't cure the world. Though prayers are sometimes used in the gray, you can do just as well without them. Our prayers are really only reminders to turn on that inner reservoir of power that lives within each of our minds. You fill up this space with mental energies, then direct these powers to do your bidding. If you achieve the desired effects, it was you, not the prayer, that accomplished it. Once past the beginner stages, you'll probably drop the prayers altogether. It's called gray witchcraft because you must know the basics of the black and white. However, this album reveals more about these realms than has ever been told before, so you already have an excellent start. As a gray, you'll study the Bible, Darwin's theory, and astrology. You'll master the basics of tarot, Ouija, and voodoo, and you'll keep a book of shadows. You can use robes of white, red, and black. However, in the gray realm, if you want to buy just one all-purpose robe, do it. If you like black, great. That's the color I usually wear. I also like a black crucifix around my neck. This symbolizes my lack of fear and death. The gray is the only witch or warlock who doesn't fear death. The black fears ending up useless to Satan. The white lives in dread of dying only to learn she somehow displeased God and he won't accept her into heaven. If you're going to practice gray witchcraft, you should furnish your room comfortably. You'll need a soft carpet or throw rug for kneeling in meditation and holding seances. Holy water is a necessity. Purify the water as the white witches do, or simply leave a container outside and capture the rain. The ashes of a Christian and a container of graveyard dust are also needed. The graveyard dust is used in the gray realm to keep away or exorcise evil spirits, as they cannot stand anything from a graveyard. To obtain it, just go to the graveyard of your choice. Find the oldest tombstone. Fill a container with dirt from the base of the stone. Then bless it with your holy water. By the way, the art of blessing things is basically the same in all three realms of witchcraft, except in the gray you concentrate all the good force of your mind into the blessing. Your mind must transfer so much goodness into the object being blessed that it will destroy all evil on contact. Take a single flower blossom. A rose is excellent. Dip it into your holy water and sprinkle the item to be blessed 3 times while you recite an appropriate prayer. For instance, over the graveyard dust.
Dust you are from the oldest graves. I bless you in the name of Manmar, Manni, Mantura.
Your incense should be your favorite with burners of silver or gold. You should have 2 9-candle sconces, and you should be prepared to buy many colors of candles and holders as needed. The gray realm puts a lot of emphasis on candles because they add to your strength. Candle power is a gray specialty. Though I can't guarantee success, with proper direction, things normally happen. Take green candles. They can bring you prosperity. This ritual is performed exactly at sunrise and in your spiritual robe. Place a white altar cloth over a small table. In the center of the table, place 3 8-inch green candles in green holders. Between the candles, place pine incense in green burners. Now, sitting with legs crossed, stretch your arms out to each side of you, palms up. Then raise your arms slowly upwards so that the palms are facing each other, over your head. Remain in this position and repeat the following chant 4 times, directly at the center candle. You must force into that candle all the power that is behind your desire for good fortune. The more strength you put into the candle, the bigger your financial return.
Hey Yang, Hey Young, Simaris, Simiris, Hebrew Dando.
Now wash your face and hands with holy water. Still sitting, kiss the two corners of the white altar cloth facing you, first right, then left. Then reverse it, kissing the left and the right. Now get up, but leave the candles and incense burning. All the while the candles burn, your mental energies will be flooding the air with their strength. Nothing is impossible for you in the gray. You can even continue a love beyond death. 24 hours after a lover dies, put on a white robe, light a white candle in a white holder, and rose incense in a white burner. Now concentrate all the longing for that loved one into the candle. Put so much force into it that the candle flame becomes a bridge spanning death. If the loved one can come back, he will. If he doesn't appear, don't be disappointed. He may not be ready. Continue trying every 30 days and at midnight until he appears. In many cases, once the spirit has returned, it can resume its role of being a lover. There's a chant about this called Witch's Love Song. This is sung in English as our most great chants.
I'm calling you in early morn, come hear the witch's love song. I see your face, I hear your voice, and you've been gone so long. Your death took away your life, your face covered with black, but nothing can take away our love, my candles bring it back. Ooh, all those lovely things we shared, I cannot let them go. I love you in death, my dear, just see my candles glow. Your death took away your life, your face covered with black, but nothing can take away our love, my candles bring it back. Ooh, so now in the early morn our bodies come together. You hold my face and I hold yours, we'll love this way forever. Your death took away your life, your face covered with black, but nothing can take away our love, my candles bring it back. Ooh, my candles bring it back. All those lovely things we shared, I cannot let them go. I love you in death, my dear, just see my candles glow. Your death took away your life, your face covered with black, but nothing can take away our love, my candles bring it back. Ooh, so now in the early morn our bodies come together. You hold my face and I hold yours, we love this way forever. Your death took away your life, your face covered with black, but nothing can take away our love, my candles bring it back. Ooh, my candles bring it back. Ooh.
Now, if mental development sounds nifty, get in touch with a member of the Gray Realm. And that's easy. Just keep practicing your ESP psychic phenomena tests and calling forth spirits. The Gray ones will find you. Witchcraft powers, especially those of the Gray, are easily felt by other people with the same abilities. Or shoot off a note to me and I'll try to help you. Once you're in touch with the Gray Realm, you'll be taken to their meetings. You'll be studied for a period of 6 weeks. Once accepted, you can now study with witches and warlocks who share your beliefs. Many evenings will be spent in seances, as the Gray Realm conducts the most successful ones. As a Gray Witch or Warlock, you will be called upon to help people who've been hexed or who are in trouble with the witchcraft world. Only the Gray know the secrets to free these people from the hell they suffer. You'll investigate reported hauntings and even exorcise evil spirits. To get rid of evil spirits, just put on a white robe and go into the room at midnight. Bless yourself with the sign of the cross. Place a white altar cloth over a small table. In the middle, place one large white candle, and on each side, lavender incense. Candle holder and burners are white. In front of the candle, put a vase holding 3 white lilies. Sprinkle holy water in each corner of the room. Now, sit with legs crossed in front of the candle. Stretch your arms out toward it. Then, looking upward, concentrate on gathering all the good forces into your mind.
O Mirma, relieve my body and my abode of this plague, and fill my soul with your strength and inspiration.
Now, bow your head. Fold your arms and close your eyes. Keep seated for at least 10 minutes. During this time, mentally force all your strength into every corner of the room. Drive out all evil spirits. Nothing can withstand your power. Keep seated for at least 10 minutes, then leave, letting the candle and incense burn out. Repeat this for 7 nights. There's lots more to tell you, but this is the end of our trip. I hope it's just the beginning for you, because modern witchcraft has a great deal to offer modern people. If you've decided you're a witch or warlock, or just a mortal who'd love to practice witchcraft, the door's open. Come on in. If you still have doubts, play this album again. Relax with it and practice, practice, practice. Maybe get a friend over and rap about it. Then play it again. Watch for signs. They'll come. If you believe there'll never be another day when you're not touched by witchcraft. Now to the mortals who've definitely decided that that's all they are and all they want to be. Don't feel bad about buying this album. At least you've got a great album to play at your next Halloween party. Of course, if some night when you're all alone you find yourself playing this record again, well, welcome to the club.